Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge, day number 7. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and a big good morning to everyone joining me live on air this morning, or afternoon, or evening. If you are tuning in, let us know, and let us know where you're tuning in from. I'm streaming live this morning from beautiful Los Angeles, but a big good morning to Pokey Han and Ramez, Anzi, and Kita. And we've got William, Kevin, Anna, Steve. Looks like Steve may have never, it might be his first time using or diving into the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. And he's asking, are they fun? They are so fun, but they're super chill. They're just, we do these things to help you build up your skills in Adobe XD, design, whatever it might be. And it's a good time. So Pokemon is from VA, Virginia, I want to say. I'm bad with my states. We've got Marilyn from Michigan. We got Destiny in the house. Gokhan from Turkey. Claire from the UK. Cars from Netherlands. Dan from London. Anna from Aspen, Colorado. I love Colorado. I used to live in Boulder. Great place. Yeah, awesome. So thank you for everyone for tuning in. I know for some of you, it's literally midnight, which is crazy, but I always love when people tune in at crazy, some places it's 4:30 in the morning. Did you know that? It's crazy. But anyways, let's kind of go over what we're doing today. So we got Saddam from Pakistan. Awesome, welcome. So here is the Daily Creative Challenge landing page, behance.net/Daily Creative Challenge. And we still got places coming in Liverpool and Cleveland and Holland. I love this. So if you haven't been here yet, definitely head over to behance.net/Daily Creative Challenge. All the information you need about this challenge is on this page. Now, usually there's a register button right at the top, but because we're halfway through the second week, it's now just a join us on Discord button, which is just as good. But once the next challenge launches, you'll be able to register and you'll get notifications every single morning that we do go live, or at least the challenges will be unlocked at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting my times all wrong. And then at 11:30 a.m. every single day, or midnight in India, you'll be able to join me live on air to kind of get some inspiration on what you're going to be doing for that challenge. And then you're going to share your work on Behance using the keyword XD Daily Challenge, so we can jump in here and browse through the hundreds and hundreds of amazing entries that you have all submitted over the last week and a half. And then you have until next Monday, or I guess this coming Monday, to finish all the entries. But as I mentioned every single time, we do this to help you build up your skills. So it's not a competition if you need a few extra days, or you just want to really take your time at polishing up these challenges, definitely take your time. So down here, you can grab XD completely for free. If you haven't done that yet, dive in, have some fun, follow along. And you can also join us on Discord. And here is our Discord channel. We have over 4,000 designers in here just chatting, introducing themselves. We've got a great design feedback section. And I want to give a big shout out to Cars, who's also tuning in live right now. He's been in here all morning or afternoon, wherever he is, just giving awesome constructive feedback to people. And I love when you see designers take all this feedback, implement it, and re-upload their stuff, which is awesome. So we've got ask a question. If you need questions about XD answered or whatever it might be, you can suggest features, tips and tricks, challenge suggestions, that sort of thing. It's a really good place, and it's growing like crazy. Yeah, Pokemon, over 4,000 people. Might be even more than that right now. I checked, I think, 2 days ago. Alex is asking, do you have any statistics that you can share about where people... I would love to see this. I think that we probably do internally, but I would love to see on this page maybe like a map or a case study about all the different places that people are tuning in from. I think that'd be really cool. Let me talk to the team and see what we can do. Now down here on this page, we have our challenges. So last Tuesday, we started off designing a splash screen and landing page. And if you're brand new to this challenge was one of our progressive challenges. So we're tackling a single problem or a single design. In this case, it was to create a movie app experience. So we started with the landing page. We went to a login experience, home screen, hamburger menu. Again, so delicious. We browsed for some movies using cards and repeat grids. We tackled a video player yesterday using components. And then today, we're working on account settings. Now, account settings aren't the sexiest thing in the world, but they're necessary for an application, especially an application like this with rich features that you might want to turn off or on, or if you're streaming on Wi-Fi or LTE or whatever it might be. you need access to that stuff. So we're going to be using components and a few other things to put together this account settings page, or several pages. So if you're brand new to Adobe XD, very quickly, head on over to letsxd.com. I did see a few brand new XD users and designers in the chat. Letsxd.com, I've got a bunch of different videos, not only on the recent update that came out last week, but also if you're just getting started with designing, prototyping, and sharing, you can dive into those as well. All right. So with that out of the way, let me hop over to Adobe XD, and here is the template that we've all been working on over the last week and a half. And this was provided by Marissa Blair. If you do see her in Discord or the chat, give her a big thank you. And there's a lot of really nice elements that can start you off in this process, from logos to typography to colors to photos and that sort of thing. And we also have a link to the reference file. So every single day, a few hours after the stream, I'm going to be uploading my reference file, everything that I've been working on during that day. So you'll be able to dive in there, just grab the reference file, poke around, and use some of those elements if you want. It's especially good if you're brand new to XD and you don't really know what's going on just yet. So here's the progress so far. And let me go ahead and very quickly play what we've done so far. We've done the splash screen, login screen, home screen, and if I go ahead and press play, we've got the splash screen with this cool loading animation using a mask. It transitions into a login screen, and then it transitions over into the home screen where I can just drag this, and I added a little bit of a parallax effect. I can let go, and a time transition takes us to our final state. And then yesterday, we tackled actually, the day before, we tackled a browse movie experience. So you can click on a movie and it enlarges just like that. And then yesterday, we tackled the video player, which is right down here. So what we did, we created it nice and large so we can use it on various screens. And then we turned it into a component so we can implement it on smaller screens or even bigger screens, whatever it might be. And that's the cool thing about components, is not only can you resize them, but you can also override them. Hey, Cars, welcome. Goodbye. Thanks for joining us, and thanks again for helping out in Discord this morning. So what I did was I went on my phone and I just grabbed a few screenshots and inspiration for account settings. We got parental controls, preferences, notifications, app settings, that sort of thing. So we're going to be building out a few things like this using components and repeat grids. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to grab any of these artboards and simply duplicate it. I'll duplicate one over here to the right. And we're going to start designing. I'm going to just delete some of this stuff because we don't need any of this. Now I am noticing that we don't have anything that really lets us know that there's settings in this application. Of course, we could go into the menu, and we have a menu here, and there is settings there, but we might also want to bring settings kind of in the foreground because it might be important when we're tackling an app like this. So maybe this user profile down here, maybe it'll be a profile/settings, but we probably don't want that icon. Now, the good thing is, if you've been following along, we created all these icons and we have this navigation bar at the bottom as a component. So what I'm able to do is right click on any of them and then edit the master component. That'll take me over here to the right, to the left. And this is the master component as indicated by the diamond at the top left. And now I can go ahead and make changes, and it's going to propagate throughout all of them. So I'm going to hop over to Nucleo, and I have this settings icon. Of course, if you're using different icons, or you get them in the noun project, or there's many places you can grab icons. I'm going to just drag this in. I have to make sure, before I do that, make sure I'm inside of the component. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So I'm going to grab the settings icon, drag it in to Adobe XD. Let me zoom in here and make this a little bit larger so it fits. I'm going to make the border white, and maybe I'll just place it right on top of that existing icon, select the icon in the back, and delete it. And you're going to notice, as I take a look at all the other navigation bars, they've all been updated to let me know that it's all been changed, right? Super cool. Now, we are on the settings page here. This is going to be our settings page. But of course, we need the icon to be updated. We don't want the home icon to be filled in like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a filled in icon. I might also be able to, let's see if I can do this. Can I fill this in completely? I can. So I can fill it in just like that. Of course, it doesn't have the little hole in it, but I can very easily do that. And then I can grab, let's say, a home icon. I believe I have one here, a lined icon. So if I'm inside of the component, I can just drag this in, move this into place, make the border white, Make this a little bit larger. Whoops, I got to turn off responsive resize because it does affect, you know, lines and that sort of thing. I'll move this into place like that. Delete the home icon, move this one over. And because this is an instance of the component, hey Christine, welcome. Because this is an instance of the component, what we're able to see is that it only changed it there and not everywhere else. So it's super cool. All right, so let's go ahead and tackle the actual details of the settings page. I might want at the top something to indicate that I am using this application. So over here, I'm gonna make things easy. I'm gonna just grab these elements over here. My hair is looking on point. I can't match yours, but I tried. It'll work. So I'm gonna grab this, I'm gonna make this color over here white, or not white, because you can't see it, but I'm gonna make it a little bit darker. I'm gonna make these a touch smaller, just like that, because we don't want it super large, and move this over to the right. Perfect. 16 pixels from the side, and maybe I'll just move this down just a touch. All right, so now down below, if we take a look at some of our inspiration, there's a lot of switches, there's a lot of little menus that you can go to and navigate. So we're gonna work on some of that stuff, and we're gonna use components and repeat grids. So back over here, I'm gonna start typing out, let's go ahead and type out recommendations. This will be our first switch, and I probably don't want that semi-bold. Let me go for medium, and I'll drop the text just a little bit, maybe to 20, possibly. That looks pretty good. And I have everything lining up really nicely. I can also turn on my guides if I wanted to. Guides were added in XD19, which is great. So I've got recommendations here, and now we need a little switch over to the right. So I'm gonna grab my rectangle, drag out a switch just like this. I definitely want those rounded corners, so I'm gonna just grab one of the handles on the inside. Whoop, there we go. Now it's nice and round. Now for the actual color, this is gonna be the on switch. So I'm gonna go to my colors over here to the right and just set a nice blue color. Now you might be asking, well, why don't you set the color of the actual application, the red? And I thought about that, but I came to the decision that I'm gonna keep it blue and not red, because red usually signifies either off or stop, right? So I'm gonna stay away from red at this point. Blue is usually a pretty good color, pretty universal color for something like on, right? Also green, but green, it's hard to work with. So I'm gonna move this over to the side, make sure everything lines up nicely. And of course, on the inside, we need a little bit of a switch. So I'm gonna grab my ellipse tool, draw one out just like this, turn off the border, and make it just a touch smaller so it's on the inside of the switch, and now it is on. Perfect. Alrighty, so now that we have one of these in place, the last thing we want to do is to, duplicate these over and over and over again and not be able to update them, just like propagate them like components, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these elements. I've got the little switch, that one, and recommendations. You can hold down your shift key and click on various layers to select them all. And then I'm gonna turn this whole thing into a single component. Actually, before I do that, I'm gonna right click and press Make Component. Now that it's a single component, what we can do is turn this into a repeat grid. And this is gonna be really cool. So over here to the right, I'm gonna press on the Repeat Grid button. Boop, there we go. And drag out, let's say 3 more down. And I'll add a little bit of spacing between all these. Let's go for 40 pixels. That looks good. And I can go ahead and just dive in here and start making changes. So maybe this will be Wi-Fi only streaming. That will be on right now. And we might go autoplay episodes. Perfect. So now that this is complete, we might want to turn Wi-Fi only streaming off, because maybe we want to be able to watch it on LTE, excuse me. And that's the cool thing about, working with components within repeat grids, is you can do that. So previously, if you were just working with a repeat grid, if I were to change this switch over here, it would change it on all of them. But because it's a component, I can dive in, move this over to the left, and change this to like a nice gray. Just like that, and now it's off. And you're noticing it did not affect any of the others. So use components within a repeat grid, and you'll be able to override everything, which is super cool. All right, so maybe we need a little bit of a title above here. So I'm gonna grab my text tool, type out general. And if you didn't catch the XD19 update, let me actually just do this. general. Over here to the right, we've got some new text transformations. So we can press the capital, we can do uppercase, lowercase, title case, strike through, underline, that sort of thing. Let's make that uppercase. I will make this, let's go for maybe regular, and then drop the color a little bit so it's not super in your face. That looks pretty good. Move this down a touch, and we might want a little bit of a line right underneath. Going across. Make that a little bit more gray, just like that. Everything's looking fancy. Move this up and everything lines up. Those smart paddings are super helpful. And then maybe down below we might want a few more that maybe they're not necessarily switches. So I'm going to grab one more line, just drag that down there, and maybe I'll just dive into here, copy this text layer, and then paste it, because we don't want the switches at this point. But we might want, let's say this is Parental Controls. Parental Controls. I did not spell that right. There we go. Now I spelled that right. And maybe over here we're gonna let it, maybe it's an off state, right? So I'm gonna duplicate this over. This will be off. Again, I need to spell correctly. I'll change the color to a gray. Maybe decrease the size just a little bit. That looks good. And drop the weight. Let's go for regular. Or maybe, you know what? We can always go for light. Perfect. So that's gonna go over here. And because these are essentially menus, we might want to navigate to a different screen, but we need to let people know that that's possible. So I'm gonna zoom in here. I'm gonna turn on my grid, Command or Control, little apostrophe, and just use the pen tool to create a very simple arrow, just like that. Press Escape to cancel it. Change the color. I can use my eyedropper tool. Let's go for this color right here. And I might want the size at 2. And I'll just move that into place to line it up. Perfect. All right. And you know, that's looking a little bit large. Make it a little bit smaller. Turn my guide or grids off. Perfect. That looks pretty good right about there. Now, just like we did in the previous example up here, we can also turn this into a component. So I'm going to select the arrow. I'm going to select off and Parental Controls, Command or Control K to turn it into a component. And then I'll drag a few more down. Let's go. Whoa, what did I just do? Oh yeah, I have to turn it into a repeat grid first. That would help. Boop, there we go. All right, I'm gonna drag this down. And Claire is asking, just wondered if everything in XD can do is achievable in HTML and CSS, i.e. background blur. CSS and HTML can do a lot these days. I'm gonna make this 40 pixels just like above. Yeah, I believe you can do blur with CSS3. You can do a lot of different things. And there are some plugins within Adobe XD. If you go to the plugins menu and then down to discover plugins, there are some plugins that will help you export HTML and CSS and a few other things. So that's pretty cool. Definitely check those out. All right, so for this one, we're gonna have, let's say maybe this is captioning. Captioning, just like that. This one might be streaming, streaming quality. There we go. And Dan is asking, can anyone tell me what the shortcut to turn the grid on? So it's Command or Control and then the little apostrophe. You can also select an artboard, the entire artboard, if you just grab the artboard just like that. Whoops. And then over here to the right, you can turn on the grid. You can have a square grid or you can have also a layout grid. All right, so that'll be streaming quality, and the final one will be, let's say, notifications. Perfect. All right, now for this one, we obviously want to make some changes, right? So maybe captioning is turned on. But I want to make sure that the text is actually right justified. So I do have that set to left. So I'm going to make it right aligned. So that way when I start typing, everything goes that way instead. Maybe captioning would be turned on. Streaming quality, we're going to set to best. And notifications, we're going to set to on. Alrighty, so we've basically tackled our settings screen, but of course we have a few different menus here that we might want to incorporate additional screens in. And at that point, what we can do is, let me go ahead and, before we do that, I'm gonna make sure everything lines up really nicely. Just drag this down a touch. That looks pretty good right about there. So at this point, we can also duplicate this artboard. Let me just name this settings. Duplicate the artboard, Command and Control D, and maybe this will be Parental Controls. And then we can use all these same elements to make the changes. Now I am noticing that the, zooming out, the little switch in the middle, that little round ellipse, is kind of pushing against the edges. It's not really visually appealing, if you can kind of see that right there. Now, because it's a component, we can make changes to all of them at once, even the ones that have been overridden. So I'm just gonna grab this, make this a little bit smaller, and you're noticing even the ones that have been overridden are being changed, right? Make this a touch smaller. I'm gonna jump into this one, make sure it's nice and even, and all the other ones look like they're pretty nice. Perfect. All right. So that looks a little bit better. We're gonna change this to parental controls. Just like that. And if we take a look at some of our inspiration right over here, I'm gonna copy this and just paste it over here so I can see it. Oh, that's very large. Make that a little bit smaller. And maybe up here, we actually want an overall switch to turn on or off parental controls. So I'm actually gonna dive in here, copy this, and just paste it over here. And this will be initially turned off. So you know what I should probably do is copy this one. Copy this one, paste it, pop it right about there. So this will control overall your parental controls. And of course, we can use some of these switches to help us do that. So now for this one, I'm actually going to, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna change this to movies. Movies, just like that. This will be TV shows and unrated programs. Programs. Perfect. And you know what, maybe, yeah, we'll have this turned off, and what we can do is jump in here, turn this one off as well, move this over to the side. That'll be off. That will be over here, and that will be off as well. And of course, because these are components, you can very easily override all this stuff. I'm gonna delete that, delete my lovely line. And then to, really let us know that all this stuff is off, I might want to grab the text layers, just like that, and decrease the opacity, or at least, I can either change the color or decrease the opacity. Let's go for 25%, looks pretty good. I'll do the same here and the same there. So now parental controls is nicely turned off, and we can do one more screen if we wanted to show what it looks like turned on. Move this over to the right. And grab a color. Where's my eyedropper tool? Just like that. Change these back to 100%. I can select them and press the 0 key on my keyboard. And maybe movies will be turned on. So I'll move this over to the side. There we go. Change this. Oops, wrong one. Change this one to blue. And remember, all these are still components, so they're all still linked back to the master. So if I want to make a change, and let me show you how that works. If I make a change to the master component, let's say this one here, maybe I wanted the rounded corners to go away. I can do that just like that. And you're noticing that it changed on all of them. Now this one was moved outside of the component. I probably should have kept it in there, but you get the idea. Of course, this is pretty ugly, so I'm gonna undo that and keep it at this. Now, we'll go for this one as well. We'll make this one turned on. Eyedropper tool, move this over to the right, and there we go. So now that we have this all set up, we can actually wire up our settings screen. So what I can do is hop into prototype mode, and let's say from this screen over here, or the home screen, or wherever it might be, I can just grab the settings icon, move this over to this screen here. And the shortcut for the eyedropper tool is I. This will be tap, we'll do a transition, we'll have it ease in and out, and we'll have it slide over to the right. Perfect. So now if I'm on that screen, all I have to do is press on the settings icon, it slides over to bring up my settings, and of course I can add a close button, or I can add a few different things, and I'll probably want to change the settings icon at some point to add that little dot back in there. But for now, we're gonna leave it. And we can also wire this up. In prototype mode, select this, move it over here. This will be auto animate. We'll do in and out, and watch what happens when I do that. All the switches nicely turn on, and I can wire this back up to the first artboard, same settings. Maybe maybe I'll just make it a little bit quicker. Make this a little bit quicker as well. Press play. Whoop. all the settings turn on, and all the settings turn off. So that will just about do it for today. I'm gonna polish this up a little bit. I'll upload it as a reference file in probably a few hours or so, and stick around in just a few minutes. Terry White is coming up with the Photography Daily Creative Challenge, and I'll be back with the XD Challenge tomorrow morning at 11:30. So thanks so much for watching, everyone, and I will see you all next time.